This is bus 1817. This has one of the new GPS lockbox kits on it, and we have a bad speaker that was on this bus currently. This was the speaker that was on it. We weren't getting any sound out of it, so I've got a new speaker we're going to put in. I confirmed that first by unplugging that speaker and plugging this one into the amp, and this one started working immediately. That one still had no sound at all. I always try to make sure that when we have to pull this instrument cluster off to access any of the electronics in here, whether that's the PA system or our phone system, that when we are tucking the wires back in, we try to secure them up away from the engine cowling here. This is a very important step, because when the mechanics have to service the engine, if there's any reason that they can't access whatever they need to but through the access panel right here, they'll actually take this entire engine cowling off, and there's a little lip which you probably can't see, you may or may not be able to see, but it's a little ledge that's right down in there, and it goes across the length of the engine cowling. And we've had in the past, when there were wires that hung loose down inside the compartment right here, that those wires could get pinched when they would go to put the engine cowling back off, because it kind of lifts up and slides out, and so when it goes back in, it slides into place like that, catches underneath that little lip, that little ledge there, and then it locks down, and then it secures with latches back here, of course, to keep it from moving. But again, that's just a means of protecting those wires when they're inside the compartment back here, to prevent damage to the wires, so that they don't get damaged, so they don't work anymore. But also, some of them, if there's voltage current going through them, there's a chance that it could cause a fire if they get pinched, if there's a short in them. But that looks pretty good, so we'll go ahead and get the dash put back on here.
(1817), are you trying to reach Liberty? Because there's a lot of static.
Negative. I'm working on this system right now, so apologize for the mistaken call.
10-4.
And one other thing that I've been trying to make sure I do is when our installers put these in, they got them in and the arm was kind of in this pivoting arm here that connects to the two ball joints. It was kind of tilted out. So as I've been servicing these different units, I've been kind of making this a little bit tighter up against the dash. It's more so just for when the driver's getting in and out. If the further it's sticking out, the more likely that they're going to trip on it or get their foot or knee or something hung on it, and it could cause damage. They could injure themselves as well. So we're trying to just make sure it's the safest way possible, but still clearly visible from the driver's seat, which it is at the moment. So we'll do another test. We'll do another test call here, make sure everything comes through okay, which seemed like it did when it was with the dispatcher, but I'll check my sound as well. Test, test, test. Test, 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 test. Test, test, test. Test 1, 2. Okay, so we are still getting a lot of static, as she was mentioning on there. Test, 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 test. So their incoming sound is good, but their outgoing sounds really, really rough. So it could be that there's an issue with the microphone. So maybe I'll need to test a spare microphone on this one. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. So yeah, there's clearly a lot of static coming through on this one. So that may be something I need to address later. I'll go ahead and get the rest of the dash put back in place so that we can at least check the other functions, because everything behind the dash is clear. If we need to replace the mic, that'll be something we can do from right here. And one last thing that we've been doing is moving our microphone clip from the side. Sometimes they're up here, sometimes they're down low, but we're actually putting them up top here. And the reason for doing that is on these buses specifically, we have a PA system that's installed right in this section of the dash. So we've already got one microphone here, and when you have two microphones hanging kind of in the same vicinity, it sometimes makes it easy to grab the wrong one. So we're putting our communication mic up here and keeping the PA mic on the side, just to make it a little bit easier to distinguish which is which. So again, we'll just move this clip right up here to the top. And again, that allows us to just slip our mic right up here. It swings out of the way. Still got a clear view of your instrument cluster, access to all of your speed control, headlights, various options over here, but the mic is easily accessible and easily identifiable. So I have another microphone here. We're going to test that out. See if swapping this microphone will cause that static to stop. Test, test, test. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. So we're still getting a lot of static through the system. Test 1, 2.
Test 1, 2.
All right. So I don't know for sure what we're going to need to do. Potentially maybe replace the amplifier, and that might be the next option. I don't have any more of these Klein microphone connectors. So if there's static that's being caused by that, that could be a bigger issue. But in either case, it wasn't the microphone that was causing the issue, so we'll go ahead and put the original mic back on. This is the kind of thing you have to troubleshoot when you're working on these types of electronics. Sometimes you have to test parts out, see what works, see what doesn't. In this particular case, it's not caused by the microphone. So at this point I am going to go get another amplifier just to see if that potentially could be our issue, but we'll see what happens when we swap that out. So I've got a couple of spare amplifiers here. So easiest way is don't even bother taking things down. You just kind of unplug cords here. All right, and so we've got this amp just connected and just plugged in so we can test it. Test, test, test. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Test. So we're still getting a lot of static through this system. So the only other two options that I'm seeing as a cause for this is this Klein speaker phone connector, a headphone connector, headset connector, whatever you want to say, and or the phone. So we'll have to, I guess, address this situation with someone at the GPS Lockbox and AT&T and see what we can figure out. But at least for the moment it is working. It's just very staticky, but it's better than nothing. One other thing I wanted to test out was just phone-to-phone call with a push-to-talk test call. And so I've put both of these on, well, let me make sure. Test. So I'm going to put them on just the regular speaker connection. Test. Test 1, 2. So with both of these, they're transmitting and receiving clearly. There's no static that's coming through either one of them. So this is the one from the bus. This is my handheld. And so again, one last, just kind of covering all the bases, we'll put my handheld in the cradle here and see if we can replicate that same static that we were getting when the one for this bus was installed in here. So we'll plug that guy there, get it into the cradle. All right, she's fully charging. And so let's try this test call. Test. Test 1, 2. Yeah, test. Yeah, so we're getting a lot of that same static that we were getting before. Test. Test 1, 2. 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 Testing 1, 2. Yeah, so sound is coming in to the system fine with no static, but I've got to lean toward it being this Klein connector coming into the amplifier from the phone that's causing that static, since it's doing the exact same thing, and we've tried replacing the amp and the microphone and it's still doing it. So that is where we stand now. So I ran into one of our installers from GPS Lockbox, and he gave me a few extra of the little Klein connectors here. So I'm going to swap this one out real quick and see if doing that will resolve that static issue. Put back in. We are.
Go ahead, 1817.
So we're having some issues with that that kind of outgoing call issue when I just was swapping that out. So we might need to power it down, power it back up. Let's try this one more time on my handheld. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Okay, sounds like the static has been resolved. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. So we're not having issues right there. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Looks like we might have resolved the issue with that static. So let me just put this one off speaker so I can listen to it closer. Test 1, 2. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Yep, so it looks like that the little Klein connector was causing some static. So that must be an issue somewhere within this. Maybe the wire has a short in it somewhere. But if we have static issues in the future, we'll definitely take a look at these being the potential cause. Thanks again for watching.